The Susan Brender Show is a radio show online broadcasted on YouTube across the United States and globally. The show features guests who speak about health, spirituality, entertainment, and a host of subjects to enlighten people across the nation. Listen to the show that empowers women and men alike and highlights those who have made a difference. I'm Susan Brender, and this is the Susan Brender Show. I'm speaking to Ricky Rebel, who has embarked on a solo career that has taken him through years of working with the most amazing people and having experiences I'm sure he's going to be able to explain to our audience that have been remarkable and at the same time hard work, as he said to me. Now, here's the thing. I want him to talk about himself a little bit because I think, people will admire you anyway or anything you have to say. And I want to know a little bit about where you started and where you are now.
Okay. Thanks for having me on your show, Susan. Well, I started off at a very young age in the music industry and in the industry in general. I booked a couple movies when I was a kid. I sang on the Anastasia soundtrack. I sang on the Apollo 13 soundtrack. I was featured in a movie called Austin Powers, International Man of Mystery. I also did a film with Susan Sarandon and Natalie Portman called Anywhere But Here. And the list goes on and on. But while I was doing all of these things, commercials and whatnot, I auditioned for to be a part of a group, a vocal group. And back then we worked really hard. And we decided to call ourselves No Authority. And we had someone at Sony come to our rehearsals and listen to our demos. And he said, hey, I love the demos. I want to show them to Michael and see what he thinks. And we're like, okay, cool. An executive at Sony wants to hear our record. Sounds great. And it turns out that he came back and he said, Michael loves your material. He loves the music. And he wants to meet you personally so that he can sign you to his label. MJJ Records. And we're like,
and you're thinking, who's this, right?
Well, the whole time they were saying Michael. They didn't tell us Michael Jackson.
Did you actually almost faint when you heard that it was Michael Jackson?
Yes. I'm glad they waited to tell me that before John O'Cohan came into the room. And we made a full record with Sony, and then we made another album, and it turns out that Madonna wanted to buy that record from Sony to release it on her label called Maverick Records. And we ended up doing the same thing. We went to her label, Maverick Records. We sang for all the executives, and she had to okay the record. She had to okay everything, and she did. And then she put us on tour with Britney Spears.
I'm just curious, Ricky, what was it like to work with people who are just up on the charts, people who are so popular?
Well, not very many people can say that they had two legends, Michael Jackson and Madonna, be their boss. It's incredible to think about, and there was a lot of stress involved because I'm the kind of guy that likes to get things done. I don't like to wait. I'm kind of an impatient person. And I like to work really, really hard. So having fun is not necessarily, I have fun, but success is the most fun thing to me. So when I was in the group, there were the boys, they like to party, they like to drink, they like to do what normal boys like to do. But I didn't want to do those things. I wanted us to get to bed early. So I was kind of like the dad in the relationship. I was like, let's go to bed early. We got to rehearse, you guys. Come over here and let's rehearse. Let's get this right. Oh, Ricky, what are you worried about? We got this. They were so confident. I just remember the other boys were always so confident in themselves and in their talent or whatever it is they were doing. And I don't have that natural thing about me. I have to work at feeling confident. I only feel confident if I, first of all, will myself to be confident and will myself to do something. You will do this, you will perform this, you're going to do that. That's it. It's kind of like I make a commitment to do something and then I can do it.
Yeah, but Ricky, you're human, and people who are human, they have emotions, they have ideas, they have thoughts, and you were just acting like Ricky Rebel, which leads me to asking you, why did you become Ricky Rebel?
Well, after the boy band phase ended, there was this thing that happened called 9/11. 9/11 was a horrific event that changed the course of the music industry. It changed everything. And the music industry was already kind of dying at that point because people were stealing music, and they didn't know how to combat that, like Napster and things like that. And then 9/11 happened, and nobody wanted to sign anybody. Nobody wanted to take a chance on a different act because I wanted to go solo. I wanted to keep, I kept knocking on doors, but the labels weren't doing it. So I had to learn how to do everything myself. I had to learn how to self-produce. I had to learn Pro Tools. I had to learn how to play the guitar. I learned how to just be a self-manufacturer and make my own videos, everything.
What you're telling me is that you have a lot of skills. I mean, first of all, I'm just very curious about who inspired you to be a musician, and did your family get involved as well?
I have 3 inspirations of mine that I love, David Bowie, Madonna, and Prince. That's my holy trinity. Now people would ask you, why did you choose those particular people? Well, I kind of feel an affinity towards all 3 of them in different ways. I have a huge amount of respect for them as creative people, lots of courage involved in doing what they did and accomplishing what they accomplished, a lot of hard work, and I admire that. Prince, I admire his musicianship. I think that he was a genius when it came to just picking up any instrument, playing it, and recording it and having a hit record. Madonna, I appreciate a lot about her. Growing up especially, was her chutzpah, not really caring about too much about what people think about her, even though she cares deeply about what people think about her. It's like that strange juxtaposition. And I think that I can definitely relate, because there's a part of me that I'll do something that's the antithesis of what people might expect of me or want of me. And David Bowie, I think, is the closest thing kind of that I can kind of say, oh, well, that's kind of similar to Ricky Rebel. David Bowie in that land. I mean, I admire him so much. I mean, his voice is beautiful, and I think we have expression where there's like an androgyny about me that people are either drawn to or dislike very much.
Well, give me examples of when you say people, that can either be drawn to you or turned off by you. Why? I mean, my audience, I'm sure, is asking the same question. Who is Ricky Rebel? Will he please stand up? This is really important to know.
Yeah. Well, growing up during that time when I had to learn everything myself, I didn't have a label. I was working with a producer who was the best word to describe was a mean person. He would literally tell me every day that you don't work hard enough, you're not good enough, you're not this, you're not that. He said, you can never let anybody know that you're bisexual or gay. Nobody will accept you. You will fail. People in the middle America will never accept you. And that really bothered me. Yeah, but he had some good qualities too, believe it or not.
It's hard to believe because
he pushed me, and he's the one who actually introduced me to rock and roll. Before that, I was not interested, and he pushed me to appreciate rock and roll, which I did. He introduced me to David Bowie and whatnot, and that's how I started my love affair with rock music in general, because before that I did not really like it because all the men screamed. And as you can tell, I'm struggling to just be loud in this interview. I don't like to scream.
Well, I'm just, before you continue, Ricky, we talked about how music makes you feel. Does it transform you in ways you can't even describe?
Yes. Music has literally lifted me out of some really hard times. I go to music to heal. I use music to celebrate and have fun. I use music for many different ways, and yes, it has tremendous effects on my life. Everything I do is kind of informed by music.
That's interesting. We didn't talk a little bit about how you learned so quickly to play the guitar, to be able to sing, to be able to act, to be able to do all the things that you do. Where did it come from?
Well, I had this desire to be in the industry when I was very, very young. I think that when I was a kid, there was something really traumatic that happened to me in my life. When I was 3 years old, we got in a really terrible accident, my family and I, and my mother was in the car, and she had her arm outside of the window, and the car fell on top of her arm, and
oh my God.
Yeah, and it ripped like the skin off. It was just really, really traumatic as a child to see your mother on the freeway, like bleeding out like that, and it had a tremendous effect on my life. That moment on, I've never been the same. I was so traumatized that I couldn't even talk. I stuttered, and I used music to escape at that time. That's when they said that I would become completely obsessed with musical movies like Annie and Grease, and I would play all the parts perfectly and sing it because I needed, as a kid, an escape. Because I learned about, at a very young age, that things that you love very much can be taken away from you quite quickly and quite easily. So I think that that's one of the reasons why I became a singer and a performer and a musician at such a young age.
Yeah. And what are you doing now? Let's talk about now, because sometimes it's better to leave the past alone. And, we can't know what's going to happen in the future, but we certainly can know what's going to happen in the moment. What is going on in your life now?
Well, right now I work, okay? I hustle. I write music. I've been writing a new record. I named it American Rebel, and it may or may not have that name, but I really want it to be that name. And it's scheduled to be released in 2020. And I'm working with a Grammy award-winning producer named Gary Miller, and I'm also working with a PR manager named Michael Garbett, who's worked with everybody under the sun. I mean, I talk to them, and they're always like, oh, yeah, Kylie Minogue? Yeah, we worked with Kylie on this record. Katy Perry? Yeah, we worked with her on that record. The Who, I used to work with The Who. David Bowie, we used to work with David Bowie. I mean, so I'm working with a bunch of Brits right now, British London men, who are very well known in the industry. And Gary Miller's taken my songs and he adds the bells and the whistles to the music, and it just sounds very, very commercial. I have a couple of really good hits right now that he and I have co-produced.
Yeah. Now, we're living in a time where music is available on things like Pandora and online in general. That's where people get their music. When you started, it must have been different. How is it different now, though?
Well, the industry has changed dramatically. An artist doesn't really need a label in order to succeed. You don't need to have someone distribute the record for you. You can go on to CD Baby and distribute to all of the different places that record labels do. So that's the good news. The good news is that indie music is really possible to be an independent artist. The bad news is everybody's an artist. Everybody thinks they can sing. Everybody thinks they can perform and produce, and they do, and they put their music out, and it's very saturated. So in order to be heard, you have to work extra hard to get over the hump of just a mass amount of people, musicians and artists doing that.
Yeah. And if people want to sell, say, their CDs, or now I even see them selling 330s or 33rds, excuse me. Is that going to last, or is that just temporary?
I think, I don't know. It might. I have to Google what 33rds are. What is that?
Oh, no. Well, I'm a little bit older than you, so those are the records. Those are the real records. And
records, yeah.
Yes,
yeah.
Yes, the word record.
Vinyl records, yeah. People love the sound of the vinyl. It's got a warmer sound, so I think it's going to stay. And a lot of the hipsters, and like my friend who lives in Austin, he's like, Ricky, I want your vinyl. They love the little vinyl. They love to open it up, and it's cute. It's sweet, and I think it's going to last.
Are you going to have a clothing line? So many singers have clothing lines, and they have different kinds of businesses. Do you see yourself doing something else besides singing and besides performing?
Absolutely. I I have big goals for myself, big dreams and big ideas. I want to sell Ricky Rebel fitness products. I want to fitness videos for people to stay in shape, like really quick videos in health and wellness. Teach people how to be healthy. Teach people how to live the best version of themselves and to be authentic, to be themselves. I'm going to teach people how to perform, how to sing, how to dance, how to fashion. I'm going to have a clothing line. I want to have a fashion line, like a leggings line. I mean, I have big goals, big dreams, but I want it to be like a situation where people can sign up for this, a membership, and then you'll get a lot of lessons of like all the things that I've learned over the years, how to take a good photo, how to edit a good photo. I mean, everything I've learned is priceless. How to sing, how to take care of your body. I've learned it over the years. I'm very knowledgeable, so I like to package that and sell it and make a lot of money doing that. But at first, my first mission is to become more known. That's my very first thing I want, and I'm committed to that, becoming more of a known
How many followers do you have? I'm just curious, because people ask me the same thing all the time. How many followers do you have? What does Ricky Rebel have in terms of, the number of people who are listening to his things?
I have a good following. I have about 125,000 people on Instagram, at Ricky Rebel Rocks, Ricky with the Y. On Twitter, I have like 40.2 thousand people. Facebook, not so much, because you have to kind of pay in order to get more followers. You have to pay and promote. I have about 15,000 on that platform. So I'm doing okay. I'm doing well. I'm doing well as an artist. Everybody wants more, and everybody, if you have 1 million, you want 20 million. It's one of those things where it's like kind of like a never-ending game.
That's right. But the people who are successful, Ricky, have that kind of ambition, and it sounds like you have a great ambition. And last but not least, I'm curious, what are your dreams for the future?
My dream is to perform on the biggest stages around the world. I want to get scared. I want to walk through the football stadium. I have visions of myself walking down the football, backstage. It's not really backstage, but where it's like steel. There's like a lot of steel. And you walk out, and there's a big arena of people, and they scream really loudly. I want to feel the fear. I want to feel the adrenaline rush through my body, and I can see myself wearing a really great outfit, and I can see myself walking down, and they hand me the mic, and okay, Ricky, you're on. And I'm not really that scared, actually. I'm pretty used to it, and I come up from the floor and I perform. And I don't know where this is at. It might be in Japan. I'm going to Japan again. I went twice this year, 2019, wonderful. And I was very well received. And next year I'm going to be doing some big festivals out there and big bookings. So if it's Japan, it's Japan. If it's LA, it's LA. But really, I want it to be around the world. I want to perform in soccer stadiums level of stages. I want to feel that adrenaline. I'm an adrenaline junkie. I'm addicted to the fear. I like it.
Well, you're a special person. I did say that this was the last thing that I was going to ask you, but I can't help it. I have to ask you this. And that is, the person who introduced me to you is part of the Trump movement. And I'm just curious, are you still doing anything with the Trump movement?
Well, I am a proud patriot. That's number one. I love this country very much. I love America. I love the fact that I'm free to be myself and express myself, and I'm not going to get murdered like if I lived in a Middle East country. I'm not going to get thrown off of a building for being gay. I'm proud of the freedoms that I have here to be myself. And Trump has awakened the American spirit, and some people hate him and loathe him, and they are afraid of him. But those people that like this booming economy, who like the stock markets being broken in a good way, who like this historic low unemployment for Blacks, Latinos, and Asians, and businesses booming. And I'm a business person. Number one, I'd like to succeed, and I want America to succeed. I wanted more jobs for Americans, because when I work, I'm happiest. I love to work. And so I feel like when people can't afford to pay, to give to their families, even though they're doing a bunch of work and they're not really getting paid for it, Trump's administration has put way more money into people's pockets than prior administrations. So if people can't see that and they can't understand why, that's fine. They don't need to, because at the end of the day, like, honestly, like, I don't care how anybody votes, but people care an awful lot about how I vote. Yes, I did display it at the Grammys, and yes, I did wear the Trump suit at the Grammys. I did that, but that's because I'm very passionate about expressing myself, especially when people are pressuring me and trying to manipulate me into shutting up. I had so many people. If I told them I was going to go dressed like that, and they were like, "Oh, that's career suicide. Your career will be over." And I'm not going to support you if you do that. And it's just like, they pretty much dared me to do it. I have to do it now, because
that's right.
I refuse to be silent. I refuse, because it's just the times we're living in are really insane. It's really crazy. We're going to be talking about this election, 2016, and then the new one, 2020, for the rest of our lives. Like, we're going to be talking about this, because it is that big a deal. It's globalism versus free market capitalism. It's socialism versus free market capitalism. What are you for? Are you for socialist communist, or are you a free market capitalist? I'm a free market capitalist. I like my iPhone. I like my computer. I like my Pro Tools. If you start a Starbucks, I feel like, congratulations, you started a Starbucks. You deserve that money. I don't believe you should be taxed 70-80% for it. Okay, or 90%, whatever that is. So it's a dollars and cents thing with me, and many people are, especially in the gay community, are just like wildly upset with me, and they say, "We'll never support you now." It's like, well, why? I don't understand that. Like, I don't understand me exercising my right as a person to think the way I want to think. You may not like how I think. You may disagree with how I think or how I vote, but for people to retaliate in such an extreme way has had a huge impact on our society. People have divorced each other because they hate the fact that their spouse likes Trump. It's wild.
Right.
We've never been through this before. So if people don't want to talk about it, they don't need to talk about it. I don't need to talk about it. You know what I mean? Like, I can go through whole interviews and my whole life and not talk about politics, because I'm going to go in that booth and I'm going to do what's right for what I want to do. And I'm not trying to get people to think like me. I'm not trying to, join or become a politician. That's not it. I like people to have the freedom to think and to be themselves and to feel like it's okay to express themselves, because I've been locked in the closet before as a kid, and it is no fun. It is no fun, and I refuse.
Well, my guest today has been Ricky Rebel, who's got an amazing background. He's going to go places. He's going to be a very popular young man, and I want everybody who listens to the show to remember that name, and the name is Ricky Rebel. Ricky, it's been a pleasure to have you on the Susan Brender Show, and I am so happy that you're here with me. And let's do this again. I think there's so many things that our audience would like to know more about you. And with that said, I want to again say, come on the Susan Brender Show, because it's been great.
Thank you, Susan.